You pray every night. You whisper your hopes into the darkness, asking for guidance, for protection, for healing. But nothing changes. The same struggles return. The same emptiness remains. And somewhere deep inside, a question haunts you. What if your prayers are not reaching the divine because you were never taught how to truly pray? What if the most powerful teachings about prayer, the verses that could transform your entire spiritual life, were deliberately removed from the texts you were given? What if the Church, in its desire to maintain control over your connection to the sacred, erased the very instructions that Jesus himself gave about accessing the true power of prayer? Today, you will discover the 5 forbidden verses that were hidden from you, the teachings that reveal prayer not as begging or pleading, but as a divine technology of consciousness, a direct communion with the infinite source that lives within you. These are not just words on a page. These are keys to unlocking a power that the institutions feared you might find, because once you understand how to truly pray, you no longer need anyone to intercede on your behalf. You become the bridge between heaven and earth. You become the living temple. For nearly 2,000 years, the organized church has presented prayer as a ritual of submission, a practice where you must humble yourself before an external deity and hope that your words are deemed worthy of response. You were taught formulas, repetitions, intermediaries. You were told to pray through saints, through priests, through established channels of authority. But in the hidden teachings, in the fragments recovered from the sands of Egypt and the caves of the Dead Sea, a different understanding of prayer emerges. Jesus did not teach his closest disciples to beg. He taught them to command. He did not instruct them to feel separate from the divine. He showed them that the kingdom of God, the very presence of the infinite, exists within their own consciousness. In the Gospel of Thomas, discovered among the Nag Hammadi texts, saying, 3 declares that the kingdom is inside you and outside you. When you know yourselves, then you will be known, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. This is not the prayer of the powerless. This is the prayer of those who have remembered their divine origin. But these teachings were too radical, too empowering for an institution that needed followers, not masters. And so the verses that contained the deepest secrets of prayer were removed, edited, or reinterpreted until their true meaning was lost. Before we go further into these hidden teachings, I want to pause here and ask you something that might be stirring in your heart right now. Have you ever felt that your prayers were somehow incomplete, like you were speaking into a void? Have you sensed that there is something more, something deeper that you were never taught about connecting with the divine? If this resonates with you, I want you to do something. Go to the comments right now and write, "I am ready to pray with true power." Just those words. I am ready to pray with true power. This is not just for you. When you write this, you create a ripple of intention that supports everyone else on this journey of spiritual awakening. Your words become part of a collective declaration, a shared commitment to reclaiming the authentic teachings that were hidden. And when others read your comment, they feel less alone in their search. They feel encouraged to take the next step on their own path. So take a moment right now, pause this if you need to, and leave that comment. I am ready to pray with true power. Let your voice be heard. Let your intention be known. And then we will continue into the depths of what was forbidden. The first forbidden verse comes from a teaching that was never included in the canonical Gospels, though fragments of it appear in early Christian writings and Gnostic texts. Jesus told his disciples that when you pray, do not imagine that God is separate from you, dwelling in some distant heaven. Instead, recognize that the breath moving through you is the breath of the divine. Every inhale is God entering you. Every exhale is you releasing into God. There is no separation. There is no distance to cross. You are already standing in the Holy of Holies with every breath you take. This teaching was dangerous because it eliminated the need for the temple, for the priesthood, for any external authority to grant you access to the sacred. If you are already breathing the divine, if the presence of God is as close as your own breath, then you need no intermediary. You need no permission. The Church could not allow this understanding to spread freely because it would dissolve the very structure of religious control. And so this verse was lost, buried in obscurity, mentioned only in texts that were later declared heretical. But the truth remains. When you pray, begin by becoming aware of your breath, not as a biological function, but as the movement of the infinite through the finite. Feel each breath as communion. Let each inhale be a receiving of divine presence. Let each exhale be a releasing of all that is not aligned with that presence. This is the first key. Prayer begins not with words, but with the recognition that you are already immersed in the sacred. The second forbidden verse speaks to the power of inner stillness. In a teaching preserved in fragments from the Gospel of Mary Magdalene, Jesus instructed that before you speak your prayer, you must first become silent within. Not the silence of the mouth, but the silence of the mind. All thoughts must cease. All desires must be released. All images must dissolve. Only in this profound inner silence can you touch the place where prayer becomes creative power. The mind, when filled with noise and reaction, creates prayers that are weak and scattered. But the mind that has become still, that has entered the void, that has touched the emptiness which is actually the fullness of all potential, this mind speaks words that reshape reality. This teaching was removed because it placed the power of transformation entirely within the individual. It required no church building, no ritual calendar, no ordained authority. All it required was the discipline to enter silence. And in that silence, to discover that you are not separate from the source of all creation. When you pray from this place of inner stillness, you are not asking an external God to change your circumstances. You are aligning your consciousness with the divine consciousness. And from that alignment, circumstances naturally transform. This is why Jesus said that if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can move mountains. The faith he spoke of is not belief in doctrines. It is the unwavering knowing that arises when your individual consciousness merges with the infinite consciousness in the silence. The mountains that move are not just external obstacles. They are the mountains of conditioning, of limitation, of separation that exist in your own awareness. The third forbidden verse reveals the secret of praying in the present moment, not for future outcomes. In another recovered teaching, Jesus explained that when you pray, do not say, "I will receive," or "I hope to receive." Instead, speak as though what you seek is already present. Give thanks for what has not yet manifested in form, because in the realm of consciousness, in the dimension of the divine, it already exists. Your gratitude pulls it from the invisible into the visible. Your thanksgiving is the bridge between the potential and the actual. This understanding was too revolutionary for the institutional church because it suggested that believers had the power to manifest their reality through the correct use of consciousness. The church needed followers to remain in a state of waiting, of hoping, of depending on divine intervention that might or might not come according to the mysterious will of God. But Jesus taught something far more direct. He taught that the kingdom of heaven, which is the realm of fulfilled potential, is not in the future. It is not after death. It is now. It is here. And when you pray from this recognition, when you give thanks for what you desire, as though it already exists, you collapse the apparent distance between the invisible and the visible. You activate the law of manifestation that governs all creation. This is why in the Gospel of Mark, in one of the few teachings that survived into the canon, Jesus says, "Whatever you ask in prayer, believe that you have received it, and it will be yours." Not will receive. Have received. Present perfect tense. The receiving has already happened in the dimension of consciousness. Your prayer of gratitude makes it real in the dimension of matter. The fourth forbidden verse concerns the alignment of the heart and mind in prayer. In teachings preserved by early mystics, Jesus explained that most prayers fail. Not because God is unwilling to respond, but because the person praying is divided within themselves. Their words say one thing, but their hearts feel another. Their mouths speak faith, but their emotions vibrate with doubt. Their conscious mind affirms the prayer, but their subconscious beliefs contradict it. For prayer to have power, there must be total coherence between what you speak, what you feel, and what you believe in the deepest layers of your being. This is the work of inner transformation that Jesus called metanoia, which is often translated as repentance, but actually means a complete change of mind, a total reorientation of consciousness. The church reduced this to feeling sorry for sins, but the true meaning is far more profound. It is the work of bringing every level of your consciousness into alignment with divine truth. When your heart and mind are unified, when there is no contradiction between your surface desires and your deep beliefs, then your prayers become like lasers instead of scattered light. They focus the creative power of consciousness into precise manifestation. This teaching was hidden because it required individuals to do deep inner work, to examine their own beliefs, to heal their own contradictions. It could not be packaged into simple rituals or confessions. It demanded genuine transformation, and institutions have always preferred conformity to transformation. The fifth forbidden verse is perhaps the most radical of all. In certain Gnostic texts, Jesus taught that the highest form of prayer is not petition at all, but recognition. When you pray with true power, you are not trying to convince God to give you something you lack. You are recognizing and declaring what is already true in the divine reality. You are speaking the word that calls forth what already exists in potential. You are not asking to be healed. You are declaring that, in your true nature, in your divine essence, you are already whole. You are not begging for abundance. You are acknowledging that the source of all abundance lives within you. You are not pleading for love. You are recognizing that you are made of love, that love is your fundamental substance. This form of prayer is an act of creation, not supplication. It participates directly in the divine creative power that spoke the universe into being. In the beginning was the Word. and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. When you pray with recognition, when you speak the word of truth about your divine nature, you are wielding that same creative word. You are not separate from God hoping to get God's attention. You are the presence of God in form, awakening to your own nature and speaking that nature into manifest expression. This teaching was the most dangerous of all because it completely dissolved the separation between the human and the divine. It revealed that you are not a sinner, begging for mercy. You are a divine being remembering your power. And once you remember, you can no longer be controlled through guilt, through fear, through the promise of future salvation. You become salvation itself, here and now. Now that you understand these 5 forbidden verses, the question becomes, how do you actually pray with this knowledge? The practice is both simple and profound. First, you come to your prayer with awareness of your breath, recognizing that you are already breathing in and breathing out the divine presence. There is no separation to overcome. You are already in the temple. Second, you enter into inner stillness, releasing all the noise of the mind, all the turbulence of emotion, until you touch the silent center where your individual consciousness meets the infinite consciousness. Third, you speak your prayer not as a request for the future, but as a statement of gratitude for what already exists in the realm of divine potential. You give thanks as though your desire is already fulfilled. Fourth, you ensure that your heart and your mind are in complete alignment, that there is no contradiction between what you speak and what you feel, what you affirm and what you believe. And fifth, you pray not from a sense of lack, but from recognition of your divine nature. You do not beg, you declare, you do not ask, you acknowledge. You speak the word of truth that calls forth the reality that already exists in consciousness. This is the prayer that the Church feared you would discover. This is the prayer that makes you free. Free from dependency on external authority. Free from the cycle of guilt and shame. Free from the belief that you are separate from the source of all life, all love, all power. When you pray this way, you are not practicing a religion. You are practicing consciousness. You are not following a tradition. You are awakening to the truth that was always within you, the truth that Jesus taught to his closest disciples, the truth that threatened the entire structure of institutional control. You are the kingdom. You are the temple. You are the prayer and the answer to the prayer, speaking to yourself, across the apparent divide between human and divine. And as you awaken to this truth, as you begin to pray with this understanding, your entire life becomes a prayer. Not just the moments when you close your eyes and fold your hands, but every breath, every action, every interaction. You begin to live from the recognition that there is no place where God is not, no moment when the divine is absent, no situation where the power of the sacred cannot transform what appears to be limited into what is actually infinite. The reason these verses were forbidden, the reason they were erased from the official texts, is because they return the power to you. They make you the authority in your own spiritual life. They eliminate the need for anyone to stand between you and the direct experience of the divine. And this has always been the greatest threat to religious institutions that depend on maintaining their role as intermediaries. But the time of intermediaries is ending. We are entering an age where each person must reclaim their direct connection to the source, their innate ability to commune with the infinite, their inherent power to participate in the ongoing creation of reality through consciousness. This is not blasphemy. This is the fulfillment of what Jesus actually taught. This is the awakening that he called the kingdom of heaven, not a place you go to after death, but a state of consciousness you can enter right now, in this moment, through the simple act of recognizing who and what you truly are. So, I ask you now, as we come to the end of this revelation, will you dare to pray with this power? Will you dare to step beyond the limitations that were imposed on you by doctrines designed to keep you small? Will you dare to recognize that you are not a sinner, separated from God, but a divine being who has temporarily forgotten your true nature? If you will, if you are ready to reclaim the authentic teachings that Jesus gave, then I invite you to stay connected to this journey of awakening. Subscribe to this channel so you can continue receiving the hidden teachings, the forbidden knowledge, the ancient wisdom that institutions tried to bury. Join this community of seekers who are brave enough to question, courageous enough to explore, and committed enough to transform. Together, we are remembering what was forgotten. Together, we are reclaiming what was taken. Together, we are becoming the living embodiment of the teachings that were too powerful to be allowed. Leave another comment below, telling me which of these 5 forbidden verses resonated most deeply with you. Share your own experiences with prayer. Let us support each other in this great awakening. The power was never outside you. The kingdom was never distant. The divine was never absent. You just forgot. But now you are beginning to remember. And in that remembering, everything changes. This is your birthright. This is your inheritance. This is the truth that sets you free.